To say it's a pretty big build is an understatement because it went from alpha to beta, and even though there was some contention about when that was going to happen, it did happen. We are now officially in beta, and a lot has changed, but unfortunately, what we're still in alpha with is the actual player numbers. So I'm going to show that real quick. Never going to get over this. 10 players online right now, so I just wanted to take a moment to apologize because about like 3 videos ago, which was like 5 weeks ago, I said that my next venture on the alpha was going to be testing dungeons like heavily with all 6 tanks. It's just not possible. There's 10 players. So yeah, soon I hope that there will be a lot more players and we can test a lot more because we now have something very interesting to test. And right now we have legendaries to test on some tanks. Now, we did talk a little bit about legendaries in like I think it was like a video or two ago, and not a lot of legendaries have been data mined or even found in the game yet. So, for example, we're going to take a look at some monk legendaries, but they're not actually in the game. So, I think at this point it's safe to say that anything that's been data mined and is not in the game is probably not finished. Like, not like it's alpha, it will change, not finished, but like, no, they don't actually intend to have that be testable. Like maybe most famously, everybody was going on about this cheat death thing from Ventir. Soulbinds doesn't exist. It's not in the game. So I don't know where people found it. I guess it was just data mining. But I mean, unless they plan on changing something about how many abilities there are per soulbind, doesn't seem like that's in the game. So anyway, yeah, I just want to show this right now. This is the area where you can come to craft your legendaries. One thing to keep in mind, it's in Torghast, which is a bit weird. I mean, they did say that there's not going to be keys for Torghast anymore. But if there was, and you had to use one to craft the legendary, I wouldn't like that. But yeah, it's really, really cool looking. Another thing about it being in an instance is that you might, like, log out and then you get kicked out. I don't know if that matters, but anyway, yeah, so right now you can buy, basically they have like a book and you can buy items and stuff as well. So I did make one of every legendary for the 2 tanks who have them testable right now. Warrior and Blood DK, those are the only 2. And that's what I plan on doing next. I plan on taking these legendaries into 5-mans, mixing and matching them, trying out which ones people want, and seeing how it works. But pretty cool interface too. You just put the item in there, then you pick the legendary power. The thing is, some legendary powers are not, they're only available on certain items, let's put it that way. Like this one has 2, you see. And then you could customize the stats of the item too. So that's all cool, that's all well and good. But let's talk about tanks. So in order to get set up for this, like I leveled, or whatever, I didn't level, but I set up all 6 tanks so that they have this legendary thing unlocked. And then, you know, when dungeons are finally able to be tested, because there's actual players in the game, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to be playing all 6 tanks, testing all that through dungeons. But so let's talk a little bit about that real quick, because even though it's not the #1 thing people think about, there is going to be a lot of world content in Shadowlands. So I've now played all 6 tanks quite heavily through world content. And I have to say that this time around, doing the level 60 world content was maybe the most revealing of the flaws and the strengths of the class. Now, of course, this is before all the power that we're eventually going to gain, so, you know, you never know. This is an ongoing discussion, but it's a very interesting topic to me because right now, one of the biggest pieces of world content is the Maw, right? And you cannot mount in the Maw. So what do you think? By default, Blood DK is not going to be a lot of fun to play there. Things like Brewmaster and Vengeance, they are going to be fun, a little bit more fun to play there. But it's not just about movement, unfortunately. A lot of these mobs are actually really dangerous, and you could say it's overtuned, and that's very possible. You could say I'm undergeared, which I don't think I am, because these characters are wearing 160 item level gear. And if you look at the actual dungeon content, Mythic gives 183, Heroic gives 170. So this is like, this is going to be, and normal gives 157. This is max level gear. Well, it says level 50, but either way, this is like the item level you're going to be when you end the expansion. So, yeah, I mean, you are undergeared in some degree, but surely if you're supposed to go to the Maw immediately, right? Like that's how you start getting gear, is you do all this world content that I've been doing. So I don't know if the game itself would consider you undergeared. You personally might, but so the reason I'm bringing that up is because I had a lot of trouble killing anything in the Maw on a couple tanks. So let's go through my experiences on all 6 tanks in world content while I was leveling, just to be complete. Number 1, I did Vengeance. That was the first one I did, and Vengeance really cruised through it. I feel like they're doing a lot of damage right now. Their mobility was exceptional, obviously, like traversing the zones. Maybe the best thing about Vengeance was their ability to glide around Revendreth, which was the area that we were able to explore right now with the Covenant. It's obviously not the Covenant everyone's going to pick, but frankly, I think Demon Hunter is like best in slot for Revendreth Covenant and all the zone like traversing as well. It's insane how easy it is because they like if you haven't seen the zone, it's ridiculous. It's like really convoluted and like so like down here would be like probably like 500 yards below up here, so you can like just glide to get there really quick, or even you probably glide from here to all the way across the zone, honestly. So that kind of stuff is going to be really good. Obviously, you can use gliders for other tanks. But yeah, so Demon Hunter feels like it's doing a lot of damage right now. They have that Sinful Brand, Venthyr Covenant ability, which we already talked about at length, but it's really freaking good for certain types of content, so I really like that. And in Torghast too. Then I did Blood DK. Obviously, my main, the tank I plan on playing in Shadowlands, and I could already see I'm going to be frustrated with the first few weeks probably of Shadowlands. You know, once I get to 60, it's going to be pretty slow, I'd imagine. You really had relied on, you know, things like Verse and Twilight Dev and stuff to help you out, make up the difference in the damage output, but Bloody K's damage profile is just relatively weak. They do have some new things that will help them damage-wise, and they are always good for world content because of Bone Storm, Gore Fiends, regular grips, interrupts, stuns. All these things help a lot with that. For the most part, I didn't have any trouble surviving on Blood DK. I felt like they were extremely capable of doing the world content. It just took really a long time, mostly because of travel, but also because of damage. But yeah, I definitely do not look forward to doing the Maw if there is no mounts and all that, especially initially. The opening weeks are going to be frustrating, I think, for Blood DK. Then we did Druid next, and Druid is extremely good for all this content. They can stealth through Torghast floors, which is like ridiculous, but not really applicable because obviously you want to be able to kill stuff to get the power-ups that you're going to use. But for this stuff, it's really, I could have just stealthed through the whole thing and never had to worry about combat to unlock the legendaries. They were also really good for the Maw and the world content because they have a good amount of speed boosts. You know, they can use travel form. That's one thing that Druid has going for them. They can actually use travel form there where nobody else can mount, but they can still use travel form. But in general, their damage was terrible. Like, they were the tank that did the least damage out of my testing in the world content. And again, doesn't mean much, but I did not have fun when I was in combat, but it was so... like, it was fine because I can just stealth past the stuff I didn't want to kill. Whereas on DK, I had to pull like 5 extra things to get to the target I was looking for. And that was perfect. Like, he was going to kill everything fine and no problems with survival. But with Bear, it was like, if I pulled all 5 of those things, they'd probably kill me before I killed them. So, yeah, Bear still seemingly has a damage problem. Then we did Brewmaster next. And Brewmaster was definitely the best tank for the world content because... first of all, they have a lot of flexibility in the way they move around the world. And the biggest thing was just Touch of Death, though. There's a couple named mobs that we had to kill, both between Torghast, this Maw, this world content, and the Maw, all these other quests. And they absolutely dominate it because you could almost one-shot these named mobs. And there's one very specific mob in the Maw that you have to get to unlock this this guy who makes the legendaries. And it was really, really dangerous caster. But when he got to 50% health, I just killed him. So I actually had a hard time with that on some tanks. Bear was the one that I had the hardest time on. And Brewmaster just literally just killed them from 50% health. So I really think the kit that Brewmaster has acquired in Shadowlands is maybe the most overpowered for the general game. We'll see how it plays out in 5-mans and raids and stuff, like Touch of Death. Obviously not going to be overpowered in raids. Might be overpowered in 5-mans. I doubt it. Things like Clash and Celestial Brew, those are things that are going to be better there and not necessarily in the world content. But Brewmaster's damage didn't seem too bad. It wasn't great, but yeah, the fact that they had huge mobility and could one-shot key targets, I was the most pleased playing them. And then we did Prot Warrior. Yeah, then we did Prot Warrior next. And Prot Warrior was pretty good. I quite liked Prot Warrior because they had really good access to damage, like Avatar and I took Ravager, which is kind of cool if you haven't seen it. Throws your actual weapon out now, so that can look pretty cool. But yeah, Heroic Leap obviously is, you know, kind of a big deal. So it makes moving around the world a lot easier, charge and stuff as well. But they were really flimsy. I felt like the tank that had the least survival, tank that struggled the most with mobs. I'd pull like, there's this one area, you have to kill a bunch of these fire elementals. I was pulling 3 fire elementals and 2 humanoids on all 6 tanks, and Warrior died, actually just straight out died to it. Whereas on DK, Monk, the other tanks, I literally didn't even, it wasn't even close. So I don't know what that says. Probably more it says about how bad I play the spec. But either way, they had a lot of trouble surviving the world content, but they were like a glass cannon. Like I was crushing the mobs. Execute this condemned ability, if you haven't seen it, can't because webcam there, but we did talk about that at length in another video. This is a really cool ability for world content, so it's really cool. And then the final one I did was Prop Pally, which was certainly the least mobile out of all the tanks, but they had a lot of interrupts, which was really, really useful for world content. Also had Land Hands and Bubble. Really overpowered for Torghast, actually. I didn't even think about how overpowered this would be for Torghast. You can literally just run through everything, and then at the end, like Bubble or Lay on Hands, like, you know, you're not meant to do that. You're meant to kill everything as you go, but since I'm flying through the Torghast floors on 6 tanks, I'm trying to just get it done as fast as possible. So literally just running to the end, and then if I die, I can Bubble, you know, so that was really powerful, that whole situation as well. But Paladin was kind of middle of the pack. But there's a lot more to talk about with Paladin, and now we're going to transition to that. So again, hopefully next week or in the future weeks coming, we definitely want to talk a lot more about, you know, the whole legendary combinations and the situation and how that's going to play out in 5-mans and stuff. We're going to be doing a lot of 5-mans soon, but for now, let's talk a little bit about some of the other changes that came this week. Okay, so we have, where is it? There we go. Okay, so we have a post here about Prop Pally. So we're going to read this here now, okay? This is a pretty big change, actually, and I'll give my thoughts on it too. Some changes in an upcoming build, which is now out. Holy Power generation has been rearranged. Hammer of the Righteous is on a shorter recharge again, and Avenger's Shield has a new effect whereby it generates an additional Holy Power the first time it hits a given target, but Judgment no longer generates. So let's keep reading, but there's a lot. That's most of what is here. The protection rotation has gotten a little bit emptier with the longer recharge on Hammer, and this puts it back closer to BFA. Also, one particular time when Prop really wants Holy Power is the moment of engagement with a large group, but in a way that doesn't flood the rotation in longer combats. That's well articulated there, honestly. Avenger Shield will now conveniently start you with some HP when pulling packs of multiple enemies. Finally, with all this added Holy Power, we had to pull some back out of the rotation and chose to do that on Judgment since it currently serves as a separate important purpose with the Shining Light mechanic. A few ancillary changes to this are increasing the duration of Redoubt and making Sanctified Wrath generate 2 Holy Power, so Judgment still gives 2 in total while it's active. So that's interesting. Blessing of the Seasons, keeping this short for now. Yeah, so this is not actually, you can't test this currently, so I don't have anything to say on that. But the main paragraph here. Holy Power generation rearranged somewhat. Hammer of the Righteous is on a shorter recharge again, and Avenger's Shield that has a new by effect, whereby it generates an additional HP the first time. So this is how this works, okay? So if there's a pack of 5 mobs there, every time it deals damage to a new target for the first time, it's going to give you 1 Holy Power for that, okay? You also get 1 Holy Power for using the spell. So if there's 5 mobs, you would get 6 Holy Power, thus losing 1. So I'm not in love with this because a lot of times you're going to go into packs with 2 Holy Power already. And it feels then like Avenger's Shield is not the global you want to use, right? You want to use something else to get a Holy Power, go to 0, and then you use Avenger's Shield after that. So this kind of worries me a lot. I don't know how other people feel about this. This guy, I know this guy. He is very smart. But this seems like a really not smart decision. But I do like the concept. Like, I think I might be thinking too critically of it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's so freaking good that, like, I don't know. It's just, how do you keep threat on the pull as a Paladin? I always thought, like, you throw the shield and that was the way you open a pack. But if that's not the case, I don't know. Maybe that changes my opinion. But realistically, if you lead with Avenger Shield and it's the most powerful it's going to be for the rest of the combat, and you get nothing benefit, and you get no benefit from it because you're already higher on, on Holy Power, and you can't use that Holy Power right now because you're waiting for something. I think it's really clunky. But one other thing that is unique is obviously Avenger's Shield doesn't bounce to every target. In fact, I might have already answered my own problem here. It doesn't bounce to every target. So if you say you were fighting 10 mobs, it's not going to bounce to all 10 mobs. But if it does eventually bounce to them, like if you use it 2, 3, 4 times, and it eventually finds a target it hasn't hit, it gives you 1 extra, right? It's not just the first time you use it in combat. It's the first time it hits a target. So this could be insanely good for some raid fights where Hive Mind, think about Hive Mind with this change. You're basically going to have 5 Holy Power every time you throw the shield because it's going to keep finding new targets, right? So that's really, really good. But then, of course, Judgment. I just could not get used to Judgment not giving Holy Power. It was so odd. But yeah, they lowered the cooldown or whatever. Yeah, the cooldown of Hammer of the Righteous. So the talent, we talked about this a lot in previous videos. And I still don't know how to feel about this. But yeah, you can get Holy Power out of combat. And now you can do that even better. Because the cooldown on the spell is less. The spell, it does not, but Blessed Hammers or whatever, it does not need to hit something. You use it and you get a Holy Power. Now, we talked about this a while ago, and people have said that even if it did work that way, that wouldn't be a problem, because Ret can do that now, and then they get the Holy Power taken away, or something like that. You guys tell me if you play Paladin, is this actually something that's going to matter? Because if it does, then that makes that talent mandatory, right? How do you take a talent that doesn't give you Holy Power before you pull? I don't know what to think about that. And that would, if it was supposed to work that way and you kept that Holy Power, then this would solve the other problem I'm describing. Okay, I have 2 Holy Power. I don't want to throw the shield because I'm going to have 6 Holy Power. I don't want that. So instead I use 1 Hammer of the Righteous, then throw the shield out because it's just basically a free Shield of the Righteous, right? Because of what's about to happen. Then I throw Avenger's Shield out, and then I get another free Shield of Righteous basically from that effect. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think about this. One way or the other, we've been talking a lot about Paladin being this hyper support tank, and this just makes them better at that. I mean, I don't see any reason why this doesn't make them better at that. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm really excited. Prop Pally is one that I used to not really like that much, but I am very excited for in Shadowlands. So and then there's one other thing that we want to take a look at. Monk Legendaries. Now again, this is a list of Monk Legendaries that are not in the video game currently. The only classes that have Legendaries that you could test are Warrior and Blood DK. Okay. In fact, I just want to show you real quick the actual. I don't think I showed it, but see this here. It has a list of all the Legendaries. Oops. Has a list of all the Legendaries. So for the other tanks, it's just a question mark. Actually, it's just a question mark. So bunch of question marks. But what's important about this is that there's 8, okay? And you see there's room for another 8. So one of the key things about Shadowlands seemingly is that they're thinking about the future a lot. In BFA, they did the opposite. They didn't think about the future at all. They had to patch in essences and corruption and all these things to make things more fun and more versatile, ironically. But this is they seemingly already have these thoughts in mind. They plan on making 8 Legendaries, and then they probably plan on making another 4, and then another 4 with the patches, something like that. But anyway, we already talked about the Warrior Legendaries, and we'll be looking at more at that. So let's look more right now at some of these Monk ones. And you guys, again, I'll ask that you give your feedback on what you think good Legendaries would be from Monk, okay? So this is how it works currently. There's 4 Legendaries that are not for Brewmaster, and then 4 Legendaries that are specifically for Brewmaster. So that first row might be for all Warriors, second row might be for Prot only, okay? Anyway, so these are the general Monk ones, and there's 4. So these, again, probably aren't going in the game since they're not in the game right now, but you never know. So tell me what you think about them. Fatal Touch. Touch of Death's cooldown is reduced by 60 seconds. And if I remember correctly, it's 3 minutes CD. So we've been talking a lot about Touch of Death, and this easily could be the best one in the whole game for certain types of content. Like, Touch of Death is ridiculously strong. I don't understand how it can be that strong. It literally one-shots mobs at times. So we'll see. That's going to depend a lot on the health pools, obviously. But anyway, that one's really cool. It's from the Anima Power 36 pressure points, which actually only reduces the cooldown by 36 seconds, but it can stack in there. So that's probably why they did 60. Anyway, Invoker's Delight, you gain not that much percent haste for until canceled after summoning your Celestial. Which is cool. I mean, if you don't know, Brewmaster now has a little pet that you could summon. I think it's like a 3-minute CD. Summons knees out, does a bunch of stuff. Covered that in previous videos. Pretty cool thing. But would you want to have a ton of haste after you summon it? That one's probably not going in the game. Seems pretty boring. I don't think I would want that one. Rollout. Roll has 1 additional charge, apparently. 1 additional. So you get an additional, which is really good. Anyway, 1 additional charge. I mean, another one that's just terrible, right? Like, I don't... Surely these are not going in the game. I don't... Maybe they are because some of them are, like, basic... Like, the Brewmaster ones... The Warrior ones, there's a couple that are, like, purely movement and that kind of stuff. But DK doesn't have any of that stuff. It's all 8 are powers that will enhance the way the Blood DK plays while it's in combat against dangerous enemies. Warrior has like 2, maybe 1 or 2 that are like, this is like a utility world quest one, maybe, you know what I mean? But so I don't know what to think about that. Anyway, Ancient Teachings of the Monastery. Your Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick heal for 20% of the damage done to an injured ally within 20 yards. So I don't know where that came from, but that seems pretty cool. And I quite like the idea. Whenever tanks heal players, I always like it. Whether it's healing themselves, healing your party members. As long as it's not healing the boss, I like it. Okay, so it's a cool concept, but I don't know if it's ever going to work out or anybody would ever take it. Because it's probably not going to do that much. 20% of the damage done. I mean, that's probably not much at all, so... Anyway, now here's the Brewmaster specific ones, and they all say New York Institute, which I don't know what that means, but, well, 2 of the 3 do. And one way or the other, you'll notice there's only 3, right? There's supposed to be 4, so. Brawling Flame. Breath of Fire has a 60% chance to generate a stack of Elusive Brawler for each target hit. And, of course, that sounds like that would be really powerful. This is from a Tier 21 Brewmaster 2-piece bonus, so... Not good with tiers and stuff. I don't know what tier that is. If you do know, let me know. Let me know how strong that was. That sounds like it would be strong. A 60% chance only, but realistically in 5-mans, you're gonna do Breath of Fire quite a lot, especially because that there's that talent. I don't know how viable the talents are, but we won't talk about that now. Then there's Mighty Pour, which is of course the famous Straight No Chaser inspired. Iron Skin Brew increases your armor by 30% and has a 1% chance not to consume a charge. That's interesting. 1% chance. Is that actually... See, on BFA it says 8% chance. That's interesting. But 30%, I mean, that is a lot. That's a much more powerful legendary than Straight No Chaser is as a trait, right? So, very interesting. Do Brewmasters need more armor? I don't know, but I guess they would not. Wait, hold on a second. Iron Skin Brew is not even in the game anymore, right? I don't know how that would work. Let's just assume it's Celestial, the shield or something. I don't know how that's gonna work. Iron Skin Brew's like a passive now, isn't it? I don't know. I'm not. We'll talk about this one in the future. I don't think it's going in the game. Cool concept though. Quarter Barrel. Keg Smash deals 30% additional damage and has 1 additional charge, and that's from the famous legendary there. So that's a really good one. That is a really, really good one, and that might go in the game. That one seems like that's properly balanced and. That's the case, but then apparently people are saying that, you know, these this guy actually says these are older versions. There will be some changes in a new build. Font and Yulon are replaced, so meaning like, you know, these things are not actually going into the game. So hey, you know what, it's just something to think about. So let me know what you think. What would you like to see as Brewmaster for legendaries? And here's the question, okay? So far, both here, I'm going to show you this in game. Both Blood DK and Prot Warrior have a Cataclysm set bonus one, which is actually really, really good. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. Unbreakable Will. So this is from a Cataclysm set bonus. If you didn't play during Cataclysm, Dragon Soul, the tank 4-piece, I believe, for all 6 tanks, or, well, there wasn't 6 at the time. But yeah, you know, all the applicable tanks at the time, they could get a benefit for using their big CD to the group, okay? So Blood Decays is the one that I like the most because it's Vamp Blood. Vamp Blood is not only healing, but it's also health. So Vamp Blood, that feels like it's going to be insanely good for raids, and I could see myself wearing that for every dangerous raid encounter. Now Shield Wall is a good one too because it's a big damage reduction. It grants 50% of its effect. That's how it worked. 50% of effect to all party members. Now it says party members, so I'm not sure how that works out. How it worked out in Cataclysm 2, I don't remember. I didn't play a tank at the time. But so Brewmaster and Vengeance obviously were not in the game when this set bonus was out. And then the other two are not currently even possible. Well, I think Bears is possible. It was Frenzied Regen, but it worked very different back then. I don't think Frenzied Regen is going to be working. I don't think it's going to be Frenzied Regen. Let's put it that way. But we'll see what they do. I think that would be really ridiculous if it was. Because it's such a short CD now and it heals for so much. I don't think that's going to happen. But Paladin's was... I guess it could just be Guardian of Ancient Kings now. It was basically this ability that doesn't exist anymore, long story short. So, yeah, Paladins could be Guardian of Ancient Kings. What could Bears be? Probably... I don't know, like, the thing is, you got to balance it, right? Like, Shield Wall 4-minute CD, Vamp Blood's like going to be like a 50-second CD. I don't know how this is going to work out. And if there was anything that was going to get removed that's currently in, I would expect it to be these things because they're not going to be balanced. But anyway, if you played Brewmaster, what do you want to see from that legendary? That would be the #1 question. And same with Vengeance, and maybe even think about Bear too. So let me know what you guys think. Very exciting builds. Hopefully next time we make a video like this, we're going to be talking about comparing the tanks with legendaries in dungeons. We just need there to be more than however many people there are. Let's see. Now there's only 5 players. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.